it's Margaret, and thank you so much for joining me here on The Gardening Me. Today we are talking seeds, specifically Baker Creek heirloom seeds. I have quite a few. I made, I think, a couple of orders from them, and I just got my last one in, and so I thought I would just compile it all and do one kind of video on all the new seeds that I got from Baker Creek this year. I have divided them up into annuals, perennials, and I have a few veg as well. Now, in terms of the veg, I don't have a whole lot because I still have a ton in my stash for that. But as well, I'm actually going to be cutting back a tiny little bit on the vegetables this year. But there were still a few that I couldn't resist getting. So that's what these are. Now, I'm going to keep an eye on the time. This may end up being a two-part video because I don't just want to flash the kind of seed packet up on the screen and tell you what it's called. I want to give a little bit of a description on each one. You might want to grab a cup of coffee because even if I break it up into a two-parter, it might still not be like the shortest video on earth. I'm just going to kind of switch the camera around so that we can get a good look at these seed packets. Okay, so I am going to do the perennials first. I have a nice big selection here. The first one up is Agastache, and I have three different ones here. And we have Raspberry Daiquiri, Apricot Sprite, and Rose Mint. Raspberry Daiquiri has raspberry colored flowers, and this one is a perennial in zones 5 to 10. And apparently it was a favorite in the Baker Creek trial gardens. It grows to be about 15 inches tall and goes to about 12 inches wide. So that's that one. Next is the Rose Mint. This one apparently has a really nice minty rose fragrance, and it has a super long season, and it will set flowers in June that last until September. The flowers themselves are a lavender rose, and this one is hardy all the way down to zone 4, from 4 to 10. So that's going to be a fabulous one in the garden. And I'm really looking forward to seeing whether, in fact, I do get blooms from this one for that extended period of time. To me, that seems really, really long, but I guess we'll find out. And the last one here is Apricot Sprite. And that one is only hardy down to zone 6. So I'm a zone 5B, and that is on the cusp. I mean, with our winters getting a tiny bit warmer than in the past, this one may survive for a winter or two, maybe even more, or it may just fizzle out after 1 year. Only time will tell. But I am looking forward to this one. It's a beautiful tangerine kind of color, and it is 15 to 18 inches tall and about 24 inches wide. Next up is bachelor's buttons, and I have a variety here called Classic Romantic, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Now, you have to be a little bit careful with bachelor's buttons because they are considered invasive in some areas. Around here, they don't seem to be too bad. I have had them in the past, and they have not spread like wildfire. So for me, I think they'll be perfectly fine. And look at those colors. We have whites with pinks and lavenders and kind of deeper pinks. It's so pretty. These do self-seed, and that's why I included them in the perennial category, because even though they're technically annuals, they come back year after year after year from self-seeding. So next one up is Calamintha, and this one I am really excited to grow. In one of Matthew's videos at the Southerners Northern Garden channel, he actually has a collection of these, kind of like a little grouping in his garden that is just so beautiful and kind of like clouds on the ground, so to speak. So when I saw this being offered as seed, I thought, I'm going to grab some and see how they work in my garden. I can't wait. Now, details on this. It is a perennial all the way down to zone 4, up to zone 9. and it has a minty floral fragrance. And of course, the blooms are, it says blue, but to me, they look a little bit more on the lavender side than the blue side. And the plants themselves are about 8 to 10 inches tall, and they form tidy little clumps. So next up, I have catmint, which is Nepeta. So first up, we have dark blue panther, and this one is a perennial from zones 4 to 9. It is compact and tidy, so I like to hear that when it comes to Nepeta. And the plants for this one reach only 12 to 20 inches tall. The blooms are larger than other types of catmint, so if you grow Nepeta, you normally get those very tiny little blooms on those stems. These apparently, I mean, from the picture you can see, they do look quite a bit larger than what you would get on a traditional Nepeta. Next, we have pink panther. It's more or less the same as this guy, except this is more of a lavendery, well, it says blue, but you know, lavendery purple color, and this is obviously much more pink. And the last one here is Grandview. Now, Grandview is a perennial all the way down to zone 3. It only goes up to zone 7 though. So this one has soft pastel blues, pinks, and whites. So it's a beautiful mix of colors. And the plants reach 1 to 2 feet in height and about 1 to 1.5 feet wide. Next one is Columbine. This one I'm quite excited about. This is called Leprechaun Gold, and the packet itself, you can't really tell what the really interesting feature is. You can kind of near the bottom of the packet, but I will put a photo on the screen of this one, another photo from the Baker Creek website that really shows what the difference is between this and most other columbines, and that is the foliage. The foliage for this guy is a marbled green and yellow variegated foliage. It's amazing. Then, of course, the flowers are gorgeous as well. I mean, they look like they are such a deep, deep purple color. It goes from zones 4 all the way up to zone 8, and it grows about 18 inches tall in mounds, and the flower stems, though, go up to 24 inches tall. The next one I have here is Dianthus, and this one is one that I grew last year from seed, a similar type of variety where it's a very wispy kind of flower. So beautiful. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what the ones I sowed last year are like, because after overwintering 1 year, I'm hoping that they kind of spread a little bit, they really settle in, and I get a bigger show than I got last year. So this one is zones 3 to 8, and it is very fragrant, and obviously the flowers are a mix of whites and pinks and some deep reds in there as well. Next, we have a few cone flowers, and I'll just lay those all out. There's 3 cone flowers in here, or echinacea. 2 of these I actually already have in my garden. The mellow yellow, which I did grow from seed, and green twister, which is one that I purchased a plant at a nursery on. This one I do not have, and look at this. Isn't this gorgeous? Look at the mix of pastel colors on that. Now, it doesn't say actually on any of these packets, because I did look earlier, what the zones are for this, but I'm assuming it's your typical echinacea zones, and I will put up on the screen exactly what that is. So we have this one here, mellow yellow. I mean, just look at that. Beautiful. Like I said, I've grown this one already. It is in my garden. I grew it from seed, and it's doing okay. It is still a young plant, so it hasn't reached its full size yet, I believe. I actually can't remember if I grew it from seed last year or the year before. But anyhow, I'm really expecting good things from it, but I actually only had, I think, 3 or 4 seedlings of that, and I wanted a lot more, so I got another packet. Green twister, I mean, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? I love the green around the flower petals. And I'm actually a big fan of green on flowers for some reason. Maybe it's because it's rather an unusual color. I don't know. The one I have in my garden that I purchased, I think maybe I purchased 2 or 3, it hasn't actually done that well. And I'm wondering if it's just the plant itself. I really want to try growing this one from seed and seeing if I can get a stronger, healthier, more floriferous plant. If you've seen any videos on my channel, you might not be surprised by this guy here, because I did a single seed challenge last year and the seed I chose was a hollyhock, and it was my first time growing hollyhocks. It was such an amazing experience, and I knew this year I would definitely be growing more. So this one really stood out to me, Creme de Cassis. The one I grew last year was called Majorette Champagne, and it was a first-year blooming hollyhock, and I did get blooms last year. It was amazing. This one is also a first-year blooming hollyhock. It goes down to zones 3 to 9. The center of the blooms are a gorgeous wine color with the white on the outside. It looks beautiful. So this one gets 6 to 8 feet tall, and I am really looking forward to more hollyhocks in the garden. And unlike last year, where it was the single seed challenge and I only grew 1, this year I'm definitely gonna grow a lot more of them. This is Golden Jubilee Hyssop, and another plant that I am really looking forward to growing. I've seen it in other people's gardens, and the gorgeous chartreuse foliage really stands out in a bed, and it is just such a beautiful plant. And I'm talking, even if it didn't flower, which it does, and the blooms are beautiful and they're a lovely shade of purple, even if it didn't flower, I think I would still get this one, because just like I have a thing for green on flowers, I also have a thing for chartreuse foliage. This one is a zones 5 to 10, and the plants get about 2 feet tall, and the spacing on this one that's suggested is 12 inches apart. So I'm assuming the plants are about 12 inches wide or so. I don't know how many seeds are in here. Minimum 25 seeds. That's a lot of hyssop. This is actually one of those that I'll probably be putting in quite a few different beds, because every bed could use a shot of gorgeous chartreuse foliage, right? Next up is this one, and this is lavender, and it's Elegance Pink. This one as well, I have in the garden already, but I purchased a plant. Actually, I purchased 3 of them, and I really like them. They're beautiful, but hey, if I can get a bunch of them from seed, how many seeds? Minimum 25 seeds on this. So if I can get a bunch of them from seed, I actually already know where I'm going to be planting this. Right, I'm thinking along our fence that we just put up last year. This variety is hardy from zones 5 to 7, and obviously you can see it has beautiful soft pink flowers, and it is a very small variety. In my garden, it only got to be about 12 inches across or so, and it is about 12 inches tall. So it's beautiful, and the foliage is beautiful. It's that silvery lavender foliage. Really, really like it. Next up is this one, and this is Nigella Love in a Mist. Now this is another one that is technically an annual, but I am including it as part of my perennial haul just because it also self-seeds really, really readily. I'm not sure about this one in terms of invasiveness. Here, it is not considered invasive. I have not had an issue with it spreading in my garden. Look at the color on these blooms. It's almost electric. Sometimes packets of seed have very vibrant colors, and when you actually get the plant, they're not as vibrant. So we'll see how that goes with this. So these guys are about 12 inches tall, and they get to be about 24 inches wide. Next is milkweed. I have grown quite a few varieties of milkweed from seed in the last few years. This is a new to me variety. The species is Incarnata, and this is a swamp milkweed, which is not an aggressive spreader. I have several in my garden, different colors. I have some white, I have a yellow. I think I also have one that's pink that was part of a mix. I love milkweed, and obviously you have the benefit of having monarchs being super attracted to it. And it's not just the butterflies as well. The bees love this, and even hummingbirds love milkweed. So it is an overall pollinator attracting plant. This one is hardy in zones 3 to 9 and is about 3 feet tall. So these are a bunch of salvias, and salvias, there are annual salvias and there are perennial salvias, and all of the ones I purchased are perennial salvias. Well, all of the ones that I purchased in this group here. We have this gorgeous one here, and this one is Swan Lake, and it is a perennial from zones 4 to 8, and gorgeous white flowers, and it reaches 20 to 27 inches tall. And just like with most salvias, it attracts hummingbirds, butterflies, all kinds of beneficials. The foliage on this one is light green, so that should be interesting as well. And apparently it contrasts really beautifully with the white blooms. Next up is this guy here, Sky Dance, also perennial, zones 3 to 8. It is a beautiful purplish, bluish color. They call it periwinkle blue. It's supposed to be a super long season bloomer, and this one gets to about 20 inches tall. And then the last one here is Rose Rhapsody. So this one is a perennial from zones 3 to 9, and it is a beautiful blush pink. It reaches about 18 inches tall and 18 to 24 inches wide. And as with most perennials, I mean, the first year, they're probably not going to get that large. Some of them might not even flower. Nowhere did it say these were first year flowering perennials, so I might only get leaves the first year, but then the second year and definitely the third year, we will see their full potential. Something to look forward to for sure. And here is the very last perennial that I have, and this one is Yarrow. It's called Love Parade, but look at the flowers. I'm just gonna kind of bring this up here so we can get a close-up shot. Look at how big some of these little flowers are. I actually did plant a yarrow last year that was very similar. It was a different species. I can't recall right now which one it was, but it was a different species than this. This is, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the species on that, but I will just put it up like this so you can kind of read what that is. So this one is a zone 5 to 8, and the plants get to be 1.5 to 2 feet tall, and they have dark green glossy foliage, which again is a little bit different for a yarrow. Normally, yarrow does not have glossy foliage. And it's a clumping perennial, so hooray on that, and I'm not going to have runners all over the place. So I'm looking forward to getting this one into the border. So I did keep an eye on the time, and it looks like the seed haul video for Baker Creek will be split up into 2. I finished the perennial haul, so now I have my annual seeds still to do, all those, and a few vegetables to do as well. And that I will do in a separate video. So I hope you join me then. Thanks so much for watching. Bye. It's one of those things where I have had them in the past. They didn't spread like wildflower. It's one of those things that I have had them in the past. They didn't spread like wildflower. Why do I keep saying wildflower?